Hi, I'm Robert. I'm here to talk about eating disorders again. So there's a couple of things that I really wanted to kind of talk about from the last couple weeks. It's been really interesting. Like I went clothes shopping with my wife last weekend, and I don't know, it just really made it kind of evident to me that how I perceive my own body is really like it's off kilter. I don't perceive my body to have the same dimensions that it apparently has, which is kind of interesting because I was really trained as a scientist, and so I kind of understand that there can be a disconnect between how we perceive something and the reality of that thing, kind of the actual physical measurements of a thing. We can I don't know if you've seen Guardians of the Galaxy 2. There's a joke in that about like, oh, perspective, this guy appeared to be that tall, it's funny because he's clearly not that tall, he's just off in the distance, and so the character can't judge how tall the guy actually is. But we're really like that, to some degree as well. We train ourselves, we learn, kind of what the general ranges of an object are. And so, when we see it off in the distance, we'll be able to judge pretty well, like, oh, it's a person, they're probably going to be, the range of 1.5 to 2 meters, like 5 feet to 6 feet, something like that. It's kind of normal. The trouble is that we all also bring, these kinds of preconceived ideas to the world, and so they can help us sometimes, but they can also hinder us. If you see like a car-shaped object in the distance and you believe it to be a car, the actual object could be like just a huge rock outcrop, and you've misinterpreted what it is, and you get closer and closer to it, like say it's dusk or dawn or something, and so you can't really quite see it, it's just kind of an outline. You get closer and closer and closer, and it just keeps getting bigger, because it's not a car, right? It's not just a 10 or 20 foot wide or long object, right? It could be 1,000 foot long mesa or something. And in that case, things are going to be a little different, because you came to it with this preconceived idea of what should be there. And so, I mean, and so it is, with us as people, with me as an individual. The preconceptions that I bring about my body are kind of that I always feel like I'm fat. And so when I look at myself in a mirror, I feel like I see a fat person. Body dysmorphia, yay! Always fun. Still working on that. But, when I look at the measurements for these clothes as I was going clothes shopping, because I had to get new pants. Yeah, like, tried on, some size, and it's like, oh, well, that's huge. That doesn't actually fit me. Because I'm not as big as I feel like I am, or I think I am. And that was kind of mind-blowing, really. I just kind of had to confront that I'm not as big as I think I am. And that's still, like I said, an area that I'm working on and I'm trying to grow in. I'm really uncomfortable with getting in front of a mirror, right? And like, oh, this is my body. I don't want to see it. I prefer to hide it. And I probably should do that, like my therapist told me to. Hopefully she doesn't find these videos. That'd actually be fine. I probably should tell her that. Anyway. So that's the thing. I guess, for me personally, that I've understood that I don't see things really correctly, accurately. The way that I measure myself as I see myself in a mirror and think I look isn't really mapping very well on what I actually look like in terms of my weight. And so I've realized that for a long time, and so I've kind of deferred to other people, to friends and family, and let them give me input. And that's been really helpful, actually. It's kept me out of a lot of trouble, honestly. Helped me to kind of see that I was getting into, some really bad space before I really got myself in trouble, and I was able to then start working on things. And that's good. So that's something that you might try if you aren't sure about yourself and how you see yourself, is to get the opinion of someone you know and trust, right? That can really help provide some perspective on things. Yeah, so here we are. This is actually one of my favorite spots to come and meditate. It's just a little bit away from my work, I can kind of come out, walk out here in just a few minutes, sit down like this and just kind of enjoy a little meditation. So I really enjoy that. That's been really helpful, actually, in reducing my anxiety. So that's something that you might consider trying, if you're the kind of person who finds that you feel anxious a lot and you just really stress yourself out about stuff. That kind of exercise can be helpful. And there's actually there's a lot of different free guided meditations you can find. The New York Times had one. It was just like an MP3 file or whatever. You can download it and listen on your phone or your iPod or whatever you do. There's actually an app for it, but my iPod was so old I couldn't download the app. I can't remember what it was called, but you can look it up. You'll be able to find it. Yeah, so you might give that a try if that's something that that you find you struggle with, anxiety. So, speaking of anxiety, yeah, I can't speak for everyone's experience, but my experience has been that, like, my anxiety, so I'm an anxious person, and my anxiety can kind of ratchet up, like if I'm, really feeling stressed out about stuff, like maybe, I've invited my whole family to come to my house, and we're gonna put Thanksgiving on, something like that. That can really make me feel like stressed out and anxious, and so these kind of longer-term things that make me feel anxious, I call it stressed out, but like apparently that's called anxiety by therapists. So I'm trying to use terms that are more agreed upon and kind of using them properly. But so these kinds of longer-term anxiety-provoking things can really, I just feel like they kind of wear away at me. And so after expecting to host Thanksgiving, say, in November, say September, I commit to that, right? So after a couple weeks or a month of that, I tend to get really worn down, and that's when I personally start really having a hard time with the anxiety, and that's when I start having a hard time with my eating, right? As I've kind of gotten more stressed out, worn down by the anxiety over a period of time. I don't know if that's what everyone else has kind of found, but that's me. And so one that can contribute to anxiety in the short term is actually coffee, which is kind of funny because it's kind of a catch-22 for me. I have a 1-year-old daughter, and so some nights, right, I might not get a lot of sleep. And I need that coffee to kind of keep me awake throughout the day, because this is all the outdoor fun I get right here on my lunch break. Here in about 5 minutes I'm going back, and I'm going to sit at my desk, and I will be there for, till 5 o'clock, and it's like 12:15 right now, so, I got a lot more sitting to do, and if I need to stay awake, coffee can help me do that. The problem is that coffee can also create anxiety. I actually, I think I've known this, I think people have told me, but I have a coworker, and she really has, kind of some anxiety issues. And she's the one that told me, oh yeah, sometimes I switch to decaf when I'm feeling anxious for a longer period of time. And I was like, oh, that's cool. But of course I was secretly thinking okay, that's yeah. It's really funny too, though, because with that knowledge in my mind, like last week, I think it was last Wednesday, I was sitting there at my desk and I was, working, and I just felt this strong urge to like hide under my desk. And I mean, that happens from time to time, usually when I'm really stressed out about stuff, right? But it was just really weird to me. I couldn't quite figure out where it was coming from. I was like, oh, why do I feel this? And it really knocked my productivity down that day. Kind of when I got home that evening, like it occurred to me like, oh, well, I've had twice as much coffee today as I normally do. And that was it, right? It was the coffee. The coffee was really increasing my anxiety. And that, like, I just couldn't, yeah, I kind of was like, oh, mind blown, second time this week. And that really brought it home to me that I need to be careful about, making judgments about the experiences other people are having. But that's a different thing. That's a me thing. Sorry, something I'm working on. Yeah. Anyway, long and short, coffee definitely can exacerbate kind of anxiety. So that's something to keep in mind. It's something that I feel really stupid, kind of just realizing that now, and I feel pretty ignorant having judged my coworker for realizing that was a thing in her life, and kind of being strong enough to acknowledge it and deal with it, and then having to turn around myself and go, oh, shoot, yeah, I need to be aware of that and be conscious of when I am drinking coffee and how much I'm drinking, and whether or not I might need to kind of tone it down or even switch to decaf. Bummer, right? But yeah, that's a thing as well. I really need to get going. My lunchtime is up, so yeah. I don't know if this is going to be posted or not. I'm probably going to edit it if I do post it, but that's okay. I guess, yeah. I guess what I'm really trying to say here is that, like, it's okay for guys to have anxiety. It's a thing. It's an emotion. It's a feeling. At some previous time in human history, the folks in the tribe that had anxiety were probably the folks who, kind of couldn't sleep as well at night, and so they heard, the hyenas coming, and they were able to warn the tribe and not get eaten, which is really important then. In today's society, it's not quite as important to not be eaten by a hyena, right? Like, I've got a house. I live in a part of the world where hyenas only exist in zoos. So things are a lot safer for most humans now than they were. But that kind of, physical, right, and that genetic information is still there for a lot of us. And so we can struggle with anxiety sometimes. That's okay, That doesn't make me like a bad person or a crazy person. I really don't like the term crazy, as an aside. Trying to totally cut it out of my vocabulary because, like, I've realized it can be a very hurtful term. But anxiety is it's an emotion, right? Anger is an emotion. It's what you do with those things. And sometimes you just have to manage them, right? You have to figure out what you can do to take care of yourself and just kind of get through those, because you can't choose your emotions. They're there. You have to figure out how to work with them and deal with things and just kind of get through stuff sometimes. So it's kind of what I'm working on now. I highly suggest going outside like this and just enjoying, especially on a nice day like this. It's been hot here, and so today is beautiful. Really nice day. Yeah, so you guys take care, be well. Please like this or, subscribe. Ask me questions. I'd love to have some questions to respond to. And yeah, I just got a smartphone, so I'll probably start like a Twitter account and all that kind of stuff. I'll be all hip like the young folks, because I'm pretty old, I guess. Old soul, something. Anyway, yeah, take care, and I'll see you next time. Oh, squirrel. So speaking